For fat describes the quality of an offering that he gave. He gave of the firstborn and their fat. You don't have to go and buy fat and bring and give to God. Fat represents value. He gave of the firstborn and their fat. This means, or that means that when he gave the firstborn, he did not look into the firstborn and say, no, this is too big. This is too big, and then goes around and check for a smaller one. No, he gave the first, and he gave the firstborn and the fat, and their fat. He gave everything of the firstborn. If it was fat, if it was good looking, he gave it as it was. So, Abel's offering, we learn where our offering comes from. It comes from our flocks where we work. The kind of offering we give must be our firstborn, not our second. It must always be the firstborn at the topmost. It must be qualitative, of high quality. That's why we're talking about fat. Fat represents also quality. It must come with the fat. And these are the very important principles that Abel established for us as Christians. And they establishes the basis of every offering we give to the Lord. Even your tithe, it should be the first. It must measure in this way. Now, if you look at the Bible, you will realize that subsequent to Abel's offering, all other offerings followed the same process. You remember Noah? When he got out from the ark, he gave the same offering. He gave the first and he gave the best to the Lord. You remember Abraham? Abraham's offering was the first. Every offering that God respects follows this principle. So, the first fruit is not a particular offering. It's the spirit, it's the attitude with which you give. When you look at the Old Testament, the word first fruit occurs many times. But there are two different words that are translated as a first fruit. Most of the time we read the Bible in English, not in Kenyan languages, other Kenyan language, or other Kenyan languages. But the Bible was not written in Swahili or English or your language. It was originally written in Hebrew. And that is why it takes time to find Hebrew looks in English translation. So, when you look at the word first fruit, there are two different words that are translated in the Bible as first fruit. In English it says first fruit, but in Hebrew, two different words may be used, which are translated as first fruit. The first one I want to consider is Proverbs 3, verses 9. It says, honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruits of your increase. Now, in the Hebrew, that word translates as first fruit. In Hebrew, it is called recite, which means the beginning or foremost, or sometimes it means very important. It's foremost in form of lacking. Recite, beginning, guides us to know where to start from. It's a very important word in the Bible because when we read the Bible, we start from Genesis. It says, in the beginning God created the heavens and earth. And the word translated begins with, beginning is recite, or the word translated beginning is recite. But because it is the beginning, it gives us even a better meaning. So, the beginning means that we start everything. It's the first thing we do. The first thing God did, He created the heavens and earth. The first thing you do, you give your first fruits. Not the second, but the first fruit. The sight. So the first fruit is something you do at the beginning. It is not something that you do after you do other things. You do in the beginning. In other words, I don't pay my bills and then come and give my first fruits. If you want God to honor you or God to accept your giving, it has to be the first in whatever you do or whatever you get. You give the first fruit before you pay all other bills, because it is the first thing that you should do based on our Christian doctrine. It is the beginning. It's that which starts everything. And when you start with that, everything else is now dedicated to God. We read the book of Genesis, chapter 23, verses 18 and 19. Do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast. The fat of my festival offering must not be kept until morning. Verse 19. Bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. I want us to focus on verse 19. Verse 19 says, bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord. The first of the first fruit. Now, the same word here, first fruit. Earlier we saw receipt or recite, but there is a difference in Hebrew word that is translated, or first fruit. There is a second also meaning in an Hebrew word, meaning something that is ripe and ready. In other words, that fruit is not something that is not well done or something not well developed. For example, if you plant, you have a mango plantation. You don't want to plant and ripe mango and bring as your first fruit. It has to be ripe and it has to be ready to be given. So, a first fruit or firstborn, it has to be ready and it has to be ripe. It is the first product. And that talks about the quality of that fruit or that first fruit. It must be ready, it must be ripe. In other words, it's talking about you being careful with what you give to God. It has to be qualitative and presentable. You don't bring unripe fruits before God. That's how they did it. You give something that is ready, something that is qualitative or something of value, and something presentable. So when you read the two words or use of words, first fruit, you get the thinking of God concerning the first fruit. It must be the beginning, and it must be ready and ripe. Interestingly, the Kenyan government does not wait for you to determine the tax that it taxes you. Have you noticed that the government of Kenya does not say, we trust you, you are a hustler, you are a mamamboga, you are a good citizen, you will pay the tax, or we shall give you the gross salary, and then you decide what to pay as tax. The government of Kenya doesn't do that. The government of Kenya says, I don't trust you. So, before I give you what is yours, I take first what is mine. And when you go to a shop or a supermarket and you buy anything there is a tax added to that product, whether it's a VAT, a sales tax, or whatever tax. The government does not say, well, pay the product and calculate the tax and pay it later. It doesn't say that. The government takes it from the source. because the government understands it is the beginning. It should get the first out of your honey. The government takes its tax before anything comes to you. But God did not tell the Israelites, I'm going to take your tithe and first fruits by force. You know what God told the Israelites? He did not tell them, I'll take my portion from the source. He said, I give to you 100%. And that's what God is telling us even this afternoon. And then you determine in your heart what is the beginning and what is the best. And you out of love and dedication and commitment in your heart, come and give me my portion. That's what God is telling us. And that is why it is a test where your heart is towards God. In terms of giving, it is a test. How we give to God. For the government of Kenya, paying taxes is not a test. It doesn't test us. It does not think you will pass that test. So that's why they don't test us. But God says, if you truly love me, I'm going to test you in giving you everything, and watch out you to see what you bring back to me. He says, if you want to give, watch Abel's giving, and the brother Cain what he gave. They both gave. One was not accepted. So you can give, and you can give and give and give, but you may give something that is not accepted before God, or something that God does not honor. So if you look at what Abel did, he gave the first and the best. And that's why the Bible tells us God respected him and he accepted that offering. An offering is not accepted because simply it is given. And not every offering is accepted before God. Sometimes people say, I gave, and I have not seen anything, or God has not given me anything out of what I'm giving. You have to understand one thing. Ask yourself, am I truly giving the way God wants me to give? Or I'm just giving anything by my heart and hoping that God will bless me? God does not bless us simply because we give. He blesses us because of the attitude, or the right attitude that we have in our giving. It is the first fruit, it is the first in the flocks. It is the first, and it's fat. It is ripe, and it is the beginning. It is the beginning. It is the firstmost or foremost. It's not the last thing that you do after you have paid all your bills, after you have paid all the debts you have. Then you come and say, God, it's not that I want to give to you. Let's see what God says down there. God does not reason with us in terms of giving. It's a principle. He expects us to be faithful. He expects us to be honest in our giving. And that's why God gives us 100%. Then we decide what to give to Him. This morning, let's look in the way we have been giving all through. Are we giving the right way? Are we following that Christian doctrine, giving the best to God, the first fruit, the firstborn of what He gives to us? Or we give Him the surplus? Baada ya kila kitu, tumetoa kila kitu, tunakuja kumtolea mabakisho kile kimebaki. God looks at our hearts even as we give. It is not the quantity, it is how we give. And may the Lord help us as a church, as individuals, as Christians, to be faithful in what He gives to us. Let us pray.